the most extreme racing game that will let you try out amazing stunts in the wildest places on the planet. Gravel is a new multi-platform racing game from Italian developers Milestone SRL. Milestone have worked on a lot of racing titles in the past, with games including the Ride and MotoGP series. Does this new game stay on track, or does it veer into danger? Gravel for the most part is presented to the player in the form of a television show called the Gravel Channel. This show tracks the game's season of events in career mode, where the player chases down 5 rival racers from the show's fictitious last season. With the TV show element comes the game's commentator.
If you didn't faint watching this race, you're used to strong emotions.
Now don't get me wrong, a voice is nice to break up the soundtrack, but after a while his repetitive lines start to grind. At least he is restricted to before and after and not during events. I found myself skipping the dialogue mostly entirely, bar the major events, after the first hour or so. The soundtrack to the game is a blend of mostly generic rock and metal songs. This isn't a bad thing, as it instantly threw my mind back to the Trial series. The aggressive soundtrack also helps the player get more engrossed in the experience, and it matches the on-screen action perfectly. Graphically, Gravel looks great. There is a range of different dynamic weather types, which feature snow and rain most prominently. These are probably, in this reviewer's opinion, some of the most refined and realistic dynamic effects in racing games to date. Then there is the mud effects as it splatters up from the ground onto your vehicle. The physics and implementation on this is again a great piece of graphical work. Splashing into water scattered around the track will also clean off parts of the mud, again adding to the believability and realism on show. The car models in the game look great. From smaller vehicles like the Mini to larger vehicles like the Hummer, there is consistency and detail to their design. Each vehicle also contains 5 different decal variations, which are unlocked by playing and leveling up. No nasty microtransactions to see here, folks. The tracks themselves are varied and are set in various locations from around the world, from Alaska with its vast open forests to the racetracks of France and everywhere in between. They each have their own individuality and character in the design, which sets them apart. They are presented with crowds and TV cameras at the start and end of each race, along with a helicopter that follows the racers for the duration of the events. This again adds to the realism of the game and makes the events come alive and feel more important. Negatives are few and far between, reliance on motion blur effects and the odd graphical glitch here and there. Sometimes the textures lose detail, especially in the distance. But again, minor drawbacks. This is a pretty game, maybe not Forza Horizon pretty, but it comes quite close. Gameplay wise, Gravel is a mixed experience. Arcade racing fans will be very pleased, and simulation fans may not find enough to keep coming back for more. On offer control wise is a short list of assist controls and either manual or automatic driving types. There is an option for damage to be on simulation, but honestly it doesn't really seem to have a race ending effect on the player. Handling and the appearance of the car as parts fly off seems to be the only negative effects of driving like a lunatic and crashing multiple times while on simulation. I choose to enjoy this game as a full arcade racer. On track, driving feels tight and yet has a sense of fluidity. Most tracks can even be comboed the whole way through for extra point gain and for the absolute joy of drifting. Points themselves add to your overall score and improve your driver level. The cars in different racing disciplines feel different enough, and you can really feel the weight difference in something small over a larger and heavier vehicle. The problem lies with cars in the same discipline. They feel like slight tweaks from each other. Often nothing separates them bar speed, or at least it feels that way. Career mode is the main point of focus in this game. Again, as we mentioned before, it centers around your driver as a main focus as he tries to overcome 5 of last season's top racers. Gravel breaks down races into cross country, wild rush, stadium and speed cross. Wild rush and cross country are sprints through checkpoints against 7 other opponents to be the first to the finish line. Missing a checkpoint means going back or using the game's rewind function. Speaking of the rewind function, it was something I didn't use often, but something that could do with a limit instead of a limited usage. Stadium races are short stadium track races, usually in a figure of 8, with some involving overlapping for a hint of danger. Speed cross is pretty much a typical lapped race, mostly taking place on tracks. Winning earns stars of a maximum of 3 per race. These are awarded for achieving goals and placements, with most races needing a first place for 3 stars. These stars then unlock the next series of events, totaling in 120 stars needed for the season finale event. Of course, there are other game modes in the game also. These range from the elimination type games to driving through arrows and avoiding crosses. Gravel has a small amount of vehicles, totaling about 50 overall. There's enough for everyone here, but it's lackluster in comparison with other games in the genre. Just to get back to the weather in relation to gameplay, the weather has a slight effect on traction and control of the vehicles. Whereas visually it looks great, its impact on driving is minimal at best. As mentioned before, the game has a levelling up system which rewards players with free items such as cars and liveries. There isn't anything else really the levels offer, but it's enough to keep wanting to jump in and race some more. Multiplayer wise, the servers were not online while we reviewed the game, but we expected to have the same modes a single player has and more. Our concerns would be matching players with similar assists in the interest of fairness. While Gravel is a solid game for the most part, there are some issues encountered during the review of the game. Framerate drops, glitches and bugs, while not game breaking, were all present. Of course, this is expected of a game in pre-release, expect this to be patched on day one. Some of the elements of the game come off rather cheesy, and yes, again it's in relation to the Gravel channel. The 5 rival racers have no dialogue, backgrounds, or to be honest, skills. They seem like some random developers who they dressed up like racers and put them in front of a green screen. Also, an option in game to just automatically jump to the next race would be appreciated. Watching the same graphic of the game load with the same music every 8 minutes or so has kind of felt a bit unneeded. On a final note, the load times are pretty long and feel unnecessary for the game built on such a linear structure. Gravel is a fun and enjoyable racing experience. Its career mode at its central focus, and its variety of races, locations and vehicles add to the diverse off-road experience. Gravel falls short in some departments, but as a racing experience it is enjoyable and should be considered by any fans of the Dirt franchise, Forza Horizon, or in fact any fan of a good off-road arcade racer. We rate Gravel as wait for sale. At the moment the game doesn't seem to justify a full price purchase, at least at the moment, but definitely keep an eye out for on a sale or slight reduction in price. This has been Paddy from the Republic of Gaming. Thanks for watching and check us out on the social media sites listed below.